Today we're at Elkhorn Peak Cellars with Ken and Elise. We're just kind of talking about Save the Family Farms and your wine. I understand that you're known for Pinot and Chardonnay, and I think you made some Pet Nat that I was trying to get my hands on, but I saw that it was sold out. So, I mean,
We have more coming.
yeah. Oh, nice. Okay. Um, well, why don't we start with you since I think you founded the property.
Yeah, so we've been growing grapes out here in Jameson Canyon for almost 40 years now.
It's a long time.
Specializing in Pinot Noir. We're a typical small Napa Valley grower producer. We have a 28-acre ranch, 8 acres of grapes, Pinot Noir, all estate grown. Our production level is about 1,000 cases of wine. So we really focus on small lot production, quality wines, and things like that. And Elise, my daughter, has become very passionate about the wine industry and decided to make that her profession. So we're teaming up on this. She's bringing new marketing ideas to the way we do things, learning the farming aspect and all that. And we're just having a great time doing it. It's really evolved into a very passionate family business now, and we're just kind of moving on through and enjoying it and kind of taking care of things that way.
Very cool. And then, so you're in charge of the marketing side a little bit?
Yeah, so I follow my dad around the vineyard. He's teaching me everything he knows about grape growing, which is awesome. And other than that, yeah, I handle all the marketing and sales. I manage the wine club, and I'm training to take over as winemaker.
Huh. Interesting. So what kind of led you? I mean, with the wine industry, there's so much things you can do. You can do like soil stuff, vineyard stuff, winemaking stuff, science stuff. What kind of drove you to the winemaking side?
Well, with the small business, it's sort of all hands on deck
Yeah,
in
you do it
all areas. So, we're a really small production. I mean, 8 acres is manageable. It doesn't take up all your time. It takes up all your time in the springtime and in the fall, but between you have some time to focus on winemaking. And I've been fortunate enough, I follow the grapes from bud break through bottling. So I just kind of show up where I need to be for the business. I think less about what I'm doing in terms of like I'm in the winery now, and more just what needs to be done, next steps to get this product ready to enjoy.
Armando, I think that one of the things about being a small producer in the valley, it's you, like Elise said, you got to wear all the hats.
Right.
We have to be very careful about how we spend our money. So, for example, when we farm, this is just kind of my style. I use older tractors, older equipment. I fix them, wrench them, modify them myself. We make do. Our whole focus is on, growing quality grapes. And sometimes if I've got to be out in the shop at 12 o'clock at night fixing the sprayer to get it to work the next day, it's what I do. Yeah. So you have to be very resourceful. You have to be up for any challenges that the farming operation may send your way. And then, of course, there's the winemaking process. And then probably the most important thing about this business, which most people don't understand, is marketing. You can come here, you can grow fantastic grapes, you can make fantastic wine, but at the end of the day, you have to successfully penetrate the market and sell that wine. And that is a really tall order.
In Napa Valley, there's 1,700
Yeah.
registered wineries.
Yikes.
Tough business.
It's a lot of wine.
Yeah.
Making good wine is a qualifier to be in the Napa Valley. If you're not making good wine, your brand's not going to last very long anyways.
Yeah.
But once you make good wine, it's how do you get it noticed? How do you get it into the customer's hands so they can enjoy it and subscribe to your business model?
That's true.
Yeah. And that's the task. That's the task.
Yeah, 40 years is a long time. And you see that also with the restaurant industry. So many restaurants pop in and out, and if they're not making, the quality that the Napa Valley is able to produce, like all the competition. I mean, you just see them close back down.
Standards are pretty high in the Napa Valley.
Exactly. Yeah.
You've got to really step up, and especially in the restaurant business, you get one shot. If you don't make it, you're gone.
Yeah.
On that, so
being resourceful is your number one strength as a small producer. I mean, you got to be able to make do with what you have, and you got to be able to, use older equipment, build things yourself. I use a lot of gravity to filter wines, stuff like that, because pumps are expensive.
Yeah.
Equipment in the winery is expensive, and if you just use enough creativity and natural resources, you can make some pretty fantastic wine. But it does take a lot of creative thinking and resourceful thinking for sure.
I love that. Do you use like when you're siphoning, when you're racking and stuff, you use gravity?
Yep.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah, I love the whole the gravity aspect of wine. You can do so much with it, and it's, I don't know why people don't use it. I think it falls into like the winery design.
It's labor intensive. We don't use it for our bigger production stuff. And when I say bigger production, I'm talking just a couple hundred cases. But I use gravity for my pet nat, things that fall below the 100 case threshold in production. Just because, just economics. The cost to use the winery equipment doesn't pay for itself unless you're making a couple hundred cases.
and if it works, why not use it?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
It works well. Works really well.
Cool.
Keeps you strong too.
Yeah, that's true. For some of our listeners that don't know what pet nat is, can you kind of go over that winemaking aspect and how you make it and any problems that you had with it?
Yeah, pet nat's my passion project personally. So before I came home to work with the family business, I worked at Gloria Ferrer, big famous sparkling wine house in Sonoma, and I really fell in love with sparkling wine there. So when I came home, and after a couple years working in the business, just helping out where I could, I started to ask my dad if I can have some grapes to play with, and he's very generous. Yeah, gave me
Take them.
Take them all.
and I knew I wanted to make a pet nat. So first vintage I made with a few friends of mine in the wine industry, and we made a sparkling wine to serve at my wedding.
Oh, nice. Fun.
And the pet nat style is essentially you bottle the wine while it's still actively fermenting. The byproduct of fermentation is carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is bubbles.
Bubbles.
Yeah. So you bottle it while it's fermenting, and it finishes fermentation in the bottle and creates a natural spritz. Yeah. So at the wedding though, we got so many compliments, more compliments on the wine than on our union. So I knew I was onto something. So the next vintage, we made our first commercial vintage. And so this year, it's going to be our second commercial vintage of Pet Nat. First year sold out in 30 days. Really micro production. This year, we upped our production a little bit to 50, 60 cases. And I hope it's as well received this year as it was last year. It's delicious. I think this is the best vintage yet, so I'm very excited about it.
Yum.
Yeah, I like it too, and I'm not really a sparkling type of guy, but it's a nice, refreshing, sparkling wine, a little bit different, but quite tasteful.
Yeah.
Thanks, Dad.
Yeah, it's a review right there. Golden 5 stars.
Yeah, he's a hard guy to impress.
No, that's really cool. It's because I think we tried making some last harvest, and because we weren't really sure, like when do you cap it, and and then by the time we were done, a couple of the bottles were like blowing up left and right.
Yeah.
So
that's part of the finesse of making a pet nat. That's for sure.
Yeah. Huh. Well, I think like 40 years that you've been here. I mean, that's like congrats. That's like a really long time, and I'm interested to hear like what your story was before coming to Napa, and then kind of the evolution from Napa to where we are today.
I grew up in the Bay Area, and I've always been kind of an outdoor type guy. Okay. In my previous life, I actually was working in financing in the banks doing financing. And I remember I'd always be sitting in my office kind of looking out the windows thinking, I'd really rather be outside. But I was doing my thing and all that kind of stuff. And then when our second child was born after Elise, my son, I made a deal with my wife. She kind of was anxious to get back to work, and I said, well, I'll stay home and raise our son Lucas, and that way I can, be at home. So I quit my job, and I came up here. Well, we lived up here, but I started really growing the grapes, doing the thing, and started the winery and did all that. And I really was a lot more happier doing what I was doing outside. There was no money in it. I did okay at the bank, but here it wasn't any money. But my lifestyle elevated to a point where I really enjoyed what I was doing, raising my son, being outside, farming, working on the machines, doing all that kind of stuff. And then over the years, it turned into more of a full-time deal. I kind of gravitated to it 100%. We bought some more land, developed some more vineyards, which we recently planted the Cabernet. So we're actually farming some Cabernet now and a little bit of Cabernet Franc, which is going to be really exciting. Nice. But the whole lifestyle, the whole voyage, the whole Napa thing really set very well with me. It's been a real good opportunity to, do something that I really enjoyed doing, and I still enjoy doing it to this point on that.
Yeah.
Right. There's an old adage in the wine industry that says the only way to make a small fortune is to start with a large one.
Yeah.
So you really have to be in love with the lifestyle
right.
to work in this industry. It's not a money maker.
I gotta go downstairs. This guy just drove up to pick up us wine.
Oh, okay.
A wine club.
Okay.
So
Are
I'll be
you
right
sure about that?
Yeah. I just drove up. I'm expecting him. I'm sorry. I'll be right back.
Yeah, no, that's it's really interesting that you say that, like the quality of life. I think it is completely different when you're kind of working or living in a like an agricultural like area, especially with wine. Something that I've been pretty like interested in is the blue zones. Have you heard of the blue zones, where people live to be centennials, like 100 years old? And there's a show on Netflix by Zac Efron, Down to Earth. But there's like 5 of these blue zones around the world. There's like Sardinia, there's one in Greece, Japan, and then Loma Linda. And it's basically where people live to be over 100 years old, but these communities are like really community oriented, and most of them have wine associated with them, and it's just like this farm style, this lifestyle, like work with your family, more like multi-generational people living together and really close. And actually the Adventist Health up in St. Helena is partnering up with Blue Zones to try and get Napa Valley like a certified blue zone.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Are there a lot of 100-year-old plus people here?
I don't know. I think that just like the quality of life, like farming and food and people. So that's really cool. I mean, I completely agree with you. Like, it's a whole different lifestyle.
Well, I have found that, at least for me personally, being physical every day, working outside, with your hands and your back and all that kind of stuff, even though it's hard work, I think there's a quality to it that helps improve your physical being. And in my case, it's really good for my mental being too. I like what I do. I can't wait to get out of bed in the morning. My mind is going all night, what I got to do, what I want to do, how I want to do it, and it just keeps the juices flowing. It keeps the energy moving, all that kind of stuff. And it's for a lot of people, they think, what the hell, you some kind of nut? I said, no, I'm saying for me, this works well.
We don't take a lot of vacations here, and I asked my dad a few months ago, like, don't you want to just chill for like a week, just aren't you tired? And he said, it was so cute, he said, if I stop moving, I'm going to rust like my old tractors. And I thought that was adorable.
That is really, that's true though. People sometimes they'll retire and stop working, and then they they're not doing anything. They feel like they don't have a purpose, or something.
My life is a vacation. My whole being is a vacation. I enjoy every day to the fullest. I mean, it's nice to go places and stuff, but at the end of the day, to get back to the ranch and get back in the field, that's where the real satisfaction comes from.
Yeah.
It's for me.
Totally. No, yeah, I was living in LA for a while, going to grad school, and just living in the city, I just couldn't do it. Like a part of me, growing up in Napa, just surrounded by vineyards, is it's like this sense of relief.
There's a
and,
big difference between
seeing-
LA and Napa Valley.
Yeah, huge difference.
Yeah.
Yeah. Fun. Huh. And then how I see you have slot machines, pinball machines. I'm not sure what else I saw around here. A lot of medals.
Yeah.
So what's
The
going on
longer
with
you
these?
look, the more you find. That's
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah. What's
Well,
the story behind these?
I'm a mechanical oriented type guy, and slot machines have always fascinated me. I've been fooling around with them for a number of years. The whole psychology of a slot machine, if you stop and think about it, is absolutely amazing. So here you have a machine, purely mechanical, no electricity, that people will stand in front of, put their money in it, lose their money consistently, but enjoy themselves. It's a machine.
Yeah.
And so the psychology behind a slot machine, whether it's an antique slot machine or a modern slot machine, it's selling one thing, and that is hope. Okay? So for a quarter or a dime or a nickel, you get hope. That's cheap on that. So people stand in front of a machine, they hope they're going to win, right?
Yeah.
They're going to lose. You can't win. There's no way in hell you're going to win. You're going to lose on a slot machine. It'll beat you every time.
Yeah.
The basic philosophy of a slot machine is a constant winner is a steady loser. So if you stand in front of this machine and it pays out coins, you'll play. As long as you play, you're going to lose. There's no other way. But anyhow, the whole concept of them, they
Awesome.
absolutely amaze me. They've got character, they got personality, they got style. These are 1940s. They got the deco look. They're machines. They got wood. They got metal. They got chrome. I mean, they're just. I just love them, and in fact, my hobby's become a passion, and I've probably got way more than any man should ever have. But I don't care. I like them.
We've been doing some more videos and virtual tastings in 2020 and 2021,
Right.
and this guy, he has the best one-liners. His like wisdom. I call him his nuggets
There
of
you
wisdom.
go.
But we're getting requests now through the website to come out with a line of T-shirts with Kenisms. Yeah, wisdom
That's
from
true.
Ken,
Yeah, I
because
can
they're
hear that.
so funny and off the wall.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's funny. And then, what made you want to plant? You said Cabernet Sauvignon and Cab Franc, right? So what kind of made you pick those two varietals?
Well, Cabernet is king in Napa Valley, and we've been Pinot Noir producers for, like my dad said, almost 40 years. And we consistently get requests for a Cabernet.
Right.
So,
that's, yeah.
you replant a vineyard we replant our Pinot Noir vineyards every 25 years because yields naturally diminish as the vines age. And when it came to time to replant one of these Pinot Noir vineyards, Dad and I had a long discussion about economics, essentially,
Yeah.
and we decided to put in Cabernet Sauvignon. I begged him to put in some Cabernet Franc, and it was a long sales pitch, and in the end, we ended up with
What the hell?
1
We
acre.
did it. Yeah.
1 acre. I got 1 acre of Cab Franc. So I'm excited about that. I love Cab Franc personally.
Yeah.
Cabernet Sauvignon, great. I feel like there's so much of it in Napa Valley, and I'm just like a huge fan of Cabernet Franc as a standalone varietal.
Yeah.
So
Franc's good.
I'm gonna push him to make a standalone Cabernet Franc once that fruit comes in, because I know it's gonna be amazing. Instead of
Yeah.
using it as a blender in our cab.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see about that. But the other thing, Armando, that we decided to put Cabernet in is because we're in predominantly a cooler region out here in South Napa.
Right.
Predominantly, Cab is a warm region grape, but there's in the recent years there's been a lot of Cabernet planted out here.
Yeah.
And so to me, it seemed like, well, this would be kind of a challenging thing to do. I mean, I've grown Pinot my whole life. I can do that. Why don't we try Cabernet in a cooler region and see how we can do with it? So we did a lot of research on that for the specific clones. We tightened up the spacing. We did a lot of things that will allow Cabernet to ripen. The concern about planting Cabernet in a cool region. It takes longer to ripen. Then you get near the end of the year and you have concerns with ripening and rain and all that kind of stuff. So we put it in. This year we'll get our first crop. Okay, we actually got a little crop last year, but we dropped it to develop the root structure. But this year we're getting our first crop. The vines look really, really nice. They're nice and even and all that kind of stuff. So I think that we're going to grow some good fruit. This first crop, we're going to make wine, Cabernet, under the Elkhorn Peak label. And the reason for that is, like Elise said, we get people there all the time and say, we'd like to try some cab. And Napa Valley is about cabs. There's no question about that. Right. So Pinot will always be our focus. It'll be our flagship, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely. But we're going to make a little bit of cab. We're not going to be a cab house like so many producers are. Nothing wrong with that, but that's not really our deal. We're going to make a small amount. We're going to sell most of the fruit. Like Elise said, one of the main considerations for planting Cabernet was the economics. There's there's more money in Cabernet production by a long shot than there is in Pinot. Pinot, if you grow Pinot in the valley, don't expect on driving a brand new car.
Yeah. Huh. And that'd be interesting to see. I mean, if you do have, cooler climates, like maybe you could even make lighter style cabs, which are pretty rare in Napa, and a lot of people, more health conscious, want lower alcohol wines. And
That's right.
Right. Our Pinot Noir is made traditionally in a Burgundian style, lighter alcohol. So I'm hoping that we can sort of model our Cabernet after that same Burgundian model instead of the overly extracted, very ripe cabs. But I also feel like the market's sort of shifting to lighter style wines.
Yeah, I think so.
And even if it's not, we'll have a different type of cab. So that'll be great.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I think we're gonna have some fun doing it, which is what life's about. We're gonna learn a lot about doing it. Hopefully make a little money on the deal, but it's a new experience, and life is nothing but a series of experiences. So we're kind of getting down to the dirt and saying this is a farming experience, and it is, but I think I'm enjoying doing it, and I think it's going to be a whole new program. So there you go.
Yeah, I love it. Then, talking about programs, you're also part of Save the Family Farms. What's been your involvement with that, and what do you hope?
Elise is Save the Family Farms.
That's very nice.
Take it away. Tell them about our cause.
Well, I got involved with Save the Family Farms in early 2018 and quickly moved into the vice president role. And I work very closely with George O'Mara, our president, meeting with all of the stakeholders, meeting with the board of supervisors. Together, we are writing the micro winery ordinance that we hope to pass in Napa in August or September of 2021. So, we would directly benefit from the micro winery ordinance. We would love to offer public tastings.
Right.
In a nutshell, for people that don't really understand, the way that the current regulations are in the Napa Valley, to be able to have tastings on your vineyard site, you have to have a physical production facility, a $5 million winery. For most of the small guys in the valley, that's off the charts. That's not reality.
Well, for the micro producers, I mean, we're talking about our operation is a 1,000 case annual production.
Yeah.
There's no way we would recoup a $5 million investment.
Not gonna happen.
In a decade of business. It's just we would open our doors to close our business essentially if we took that $5 million investment on. So the micro winery ordinance is, the goal is to set up a right size application process for micro producers. So it would only be accessible to producers that produce a micro level amount of wine, and that number is being determined now, but it will be under 5,000 gallons of wine, which is around 3,000 cases of wine is where that would cap out. And if you want to make more wine than that, you go through the traditional winery application process. But, typically in the business world, there's different entry levels, right? It's not a one size fits all approach in business. They have the bronze, silver, gold package, the entry, mid, and high tier, all that stuff. Napa Valley doesn't. Napa Valley has one application. You want to have a wine business in Napa, you go through this single application process. I mean, you're talking about having these producers who make 1,000 cases of wine a year stand in line with people who make 1 million cases of wine a year, held to the same standards. It's a non-starter, and it's been a non-starter for years and years. And for decades, all of these small producers have operated underground. But recently, starting in 2012, the county began sting operations. The state began sting operations. They'll come in, they'll bust you, they'll shut down your operation, they'll take your liquor license away, they'll fine you $20,000. I mean, it really wreaks havoc on a small business. So it's not worth the risk to operate underground anymore. So now you have a situation where you have a bunch of small producers who have been operating for several decades, who would like to come into compliance, and there is no reasonable path to compliance for us to follow. So that problem is what spurred the movement. And it really is a movement. We have about 50 small producers in the valley who are with us, who are us, who want to see this through. And at the end of the day, when we get this passed, this movement has the potential to alter the landscape of Napa Valley. It will bring in diversification. Yes. You will have different size wineries. You will have different experiences. I mean, now Napa's sort of going towards a homogenous tasting experience, right?
Monoculture kind of.
Yeah, you pay your $50, $100 tasting fee. You taste through a flight of wine in a big fancy building on very comfortable furniture. And you sort of go through the cattle car and buy your wine, sign up for the wine club, and move on to the next tasting experience. But you're very hard pressed today to find an experience in Napa Valley where you can walk the vineyard with the grower, and you can grab a berry off the vine and taste it, and you can talk to somebody that tends to the land and ask them questions and taste at a modest picnic table, at the base of the vineyard. Those experiences are hard to find, and you know as well as I do that millennials are craving that type of experience.
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily like a David and Goliath, like big business versus small business. It's sort of a rising tide lifts all boats, right? Yeah. This will improve the Napa Valley. It will offer diverse tasting experiences, and it will attract more people so that they can have both the white glove experience and the boots on the ground experience.
Totally. I mean, even like sustainability, I think the, small businesses, small wineries are really the heart and soul of the Napa Valley. And, how can, the economy is built on, small family farms and businesses, so also I see that as sustainability. And, there's so many other regions out there to go, look for these experiences.
Absolutely.
Oregon,
100%.
Oregon, Washington.
Sure.
Right.
One of the problems or concerns is that Napa is operating on an antiquated business model that has no relevance in society today, in the marketing today. It's not, things are different, people's concepts, ideas, expectations are different than they were 20 and 30 years ago. And Napa has to step up and be progressive in their marketing because, like you said, there's other regions out there, Sonoma, Washington, Oregon, Paso Robles, that offer a very hands-on experience, that are less pretentious, that are attracting the people, the tourists to go there. Napa's always been the number one rung on the ladder. Okay, it's been the wine destination in the United States, maybe even the world. But you can't maintain that status unless you're progressive in your marketing. And what Save the Family Farms is saying, hey, let's open up the doors, let's offer diversification, let's offer new experiences. If you want to go to the big wineries, they're here, come on and enjoy those. Yeah. If you want to come out there and walk the field and sit at the picnic table and talk to the grower or the owner or the winemaker, that's available too. But the whole package is, like Elise said, a rising tide is going to rise all boats. The whole package, the whole attraction, the whole draw to that is what we need to get in the Napa Valley so we can maintain this status on
It's
that.
the type of Napa that I want to live
Yeah.
in. I want to live in a Napa that is supportive and empowers small business.
Not just for the wealthy.
Right.
Oh God, yeah. There's a huge economical gap.
Yeah.
Between
The,
the two,
the
yeah.
millennials in particular are really rejecting the pay-to-play model in the
Yeah.
business world.
Mhm.
Nobody likes that.
Mhm.
The rich get richer and the poor
Sure.
sell to the rich.
Yeah.
And so you can tell we have a lot of passion for this,
Mhm.
and
It's what's right for the valley.
it's what's right. And in the
Definitely.
end, you know,
Mhm.
that's really what matters. Everyone should
Yeah.
be
Mhm.
headed towards the morally right decision here.
It's a win-win deal. Everybody's going to win. The small
Exactly.
producers are going to win. The tourists, the visitors, they're going to win, and the Napa Valley in itself is going to win. There's no downside here.
Yeah.
And the big guys, we can coexist with the big guys, the small guys. There's no downside. There's no downside at all. So we're passionate about it. We're saying this is the right thing to do. This is for the betterment of the Napa Valley. It's all good.
And when we're talking about this micro winery permit, right, it's available to people who produce a very micro level of wine. And it also comes with micro level visitation. You know, we're talking about 2-3, appointments a day maximum, no
Yeah.
marketing events. So it's not like we're giving small businesses a pass to operate like big businesses.
No.
We're trying to create a path so that small businesses can operate like small businesses.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And the other thing that's really probably very critical in this whole thing is that I want to pass this vineyard ranch winery operation off to my daughter. I want to keep it in the family. It's a family business, okay?
Of course.
Unless it's an economically viable business, that is not going to happen. It can't happen. So the only way it can happen is if we can sell our wine direct to the consumer. On the business model for a small producer is distribution's off the table. That doesn't work. The pencil doesn't pencil. Sell direct to the consumer. That's where you can make a nice living. We can maintain the property. It can stay from generation to generation to generation. Yeah. And the whole thing about life in itself is family. Keep the family together. Pass your business off to your family, your children, their children, that kind of stuff. And that's what we want to preserve. Yeah. And unless we have an opportunity to market our product and make a return on that, it won't happen. So that's all we want. We want to get in the game.
It's an opportunity to market our product because, like we talked about, making good wine in Napa is a qualifier to be in Napa.
Right.
So after that, people come to Napa for the wine, but they leave with the experience.
That's right.
And
that's it right
when
there.
was the last time you bought a bottle of wine, you joined a wine club, or you talked about a winery that you had no connection to, no experience with? It doesn't happen. Exactly. So when these lawmakers or these anti-micro winery ordinance people come out of the woodworks and say, well, just go online and sell your wine, or, that's not the reality of the situation. People don't support businesses that they
don't know.
They don't know, right?
No,
exactly.
I'm totally with you. I mean, there's this whole talk about big data and e-commerce and how everyone should be doing it. I'm like, well, you can't just stick your wine on a website and expect someone to buy it. Like, people need to know and trust you before they buy. And
That's right.
Well, here's a point of context. So when 2020 hit and everybody closed down from the COVID, before COVID, the average winery in Napa sold 8% of their wine through their website. 8%. That number's gone up substantially. But what the data is showing is that number's gone up substantially for a lot of really big businesses who have pumped a lot of really big dollars into online ads. So now you have some data points that say, well, online sales are going up. You guys, this is your opportunity. But what people aren't exploring is, okay, you're right. People are buying more wine online now, but now I'm competing with big wineries who are pumping $40,000 into digital advertising every month.
Yeah.
So now when I had my modest $100 a month budget, $200 a month budget, now I'm competing with someone pumping $40,000.
Yeah.
And it's, it's not just one winery doing that. These big wineries are doing that. So you're actually crowding out the small guy from the online market as a byproduct of this as well. And what's really interesting is before COVID hit, a lot of people were telling us, you never had the ability to taste, so why are you asking for it now? Telling us to go online, all of these things. And we were trying to convey that we cannot sell our wine without direct to consumer access. And nobody really believed us. But then when COVID hit and all the wineries had to close their doors, well, then everybody, it was a level playing field in our favor. Everyone was in our baseball field, and everyone got a taste of the struggles that the small businesses have had. And then you saw all of these trade organizations and all of these big wineries going to the board of supervisors and saying, we need operational flexibility. We can't operate without our tasting rooms. Wow. And then you had us saying, well, that's what we've been saying for 3 years. We need some operational flexibility. We need to operate a tasting room.
Right.
So I think COVID actually, one of the benefits for our movement was it leveled the playing field in our favor. And it really got these big guys to understand the struggles that we've been trying to communicate.
True. Yeah, I guess they never had those laws against them, that they can't have people there and stuff.
Right.
But yeah, it's crazy that, that people are pumping in so much money, whether you're advertising, like even for anyone to be seen on Instagram, it's pay to play now.
Yep.
Like you post something and, the amount of time that your content lives on there is like 48 hours, if that, and that time is just decreasing over time. There's just so much continuous content being posted, and if you're not paying for it, it's only going to be about 1% of your followers that see that, and that's, it's ridiculous. Like, it's so it's.
I think Elise really hit a nerve here when she's talking about people coming for the experience. Mm-hmm. The draw in the Napa Valley is the wine.
Yeah.
But the takeaway is the experience.
Exactly.
And we want to offer that experience.
Well, small producers in general are just really well positioned to offer that experience. I mean, you met with the Rons and you met with Lindsay Hoops, and these are second generation grape growers. Right. They have a connection and a root to like this land. And they're very interesting people to talk to, So I mean, Evan Roscoe's doing a documentary, and he quoted Dylan Ron, who said, everybody loves going to Disneyland, right?
Yeah.
You ride the roller coasters, you eat the food, you walk the park, you see the castle, but what do you really want to see when you go to Disneyland? Yeah. You want to see Mickey Mouse.
You want to meet Mickey Mouse.
Yeah, and that's what it's about.
That's right.
Napa's full of all of these characters, and the micro winery ordinance will help them come out and let people meet them, because these are interesting people.
It'll
very
be
interesting people.
Very interesting.
It'll be
awesome.
a new wave in the Napa Valley, because the Napa Valley has been the status quo for 20-30 years. And we're saying, times are changing. Let's open up the doors. Let's offer these new experiences, the new diversified, tasting experiences. Let's kind of make it open and fun and interesting again. Not that it isn't, but it can be improved upon.
Yeah.
And that's all we want to do. We want to participate in the improvement.
Right. No, I mean, you're absolutely right. Especially, in today's era with the younger generations, they want to meet the owners. They want to get to know you.
Exactly.
They want to hang out in the vineyards. Sometimes they'll kick people out of the vineyards if they're in the vineyards, and it's like...
No, hell, we welcome it. If you come out in the field, let me show you what's
see
going
that
on.
right there? Take that
cheers. You want to learn how to do some stuff?
And what we found is when you get people in the vineyard, they become immersed and they start asking a lot of questions. And then their takeaway is they learn a little bit about viticulture besides just how to swirl a glass of wine. And the saying in the industry, fine wine begins in the vineyard. So it all starts out in the field. So that's where we want to take it to.
Yeah. They get to say, hey, I met Ken and Elise, the owners of it. Like, you have to pay extra for that sometimes. These other times they're like, meet the winemaker. It's kind of sometimes you don't even see the owners, or they live in a different state.
Oh, yeah,
or,
yeah,
you know, they.
Oh,
it's-
Yeah.
It's really like,
Right.
it's not good. But, well, what are your, well, I guess the questions that I want to start asking is, what did your childhood smell like?
Huh. Smell like?
Yeah.
Well, I grew up on the ranch. So my childhood was full of, exploring the creek and walking the dog in the vineyard and dirt. I think my childhood smelled a lot like dirt.
Dirt. Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
I grew up in the 50s. It was a completely different time back then. It was, the 50s and 60s were probably, at least in my opinion, probably the coolest times that we've ever seen, at least most people. But there's no comparison between today and back in the day. It was a much simpler, easier. It was pretty cool. 60s were a time to go through. Boy, if you went through the 60s, you experienced something that you'll probably never experience again. It was a really cool time. Not that today isn't, but I can't compare what the kids grew up today and how we were raised. But like Elise, I grew up. We lived in the creek. We had forts in the creek. We didn't have video games.
Yeah.
We didn't. My mom used to have a cowbell to ring at 5 in the afternoon or 6 to
Nice.
bring us in for dinner because we were out in the creek in our fort.
Yeah. My mom would just yell.
Yeah, so that's how we did it.
But
That's
awesome.
awesome.
Growing up in Napa in the 90s was also
I
probably
grew
an
up
experience.
similar.
Yeah, you'll never see again. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
we grew up, I went to Carneros Elementary.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So it was lots of fresh air, right? It was lots of dirt, lots of fun, and go to the A1 market for ice cream cones.
Nice.
And I mean, we went to the chef's market on Friday nights in
Oh.
downtown Napa. Like,
Mhm.
it was a different town, that's for sure. The downtown area was not anything like it looks like today. I love how it looks today. I think there's a lot more to do today. But, back in the 90s in Napa, there was just different places, little hidden nooks and crannies in Napa where you go and meet friends and do stuff because there wasn't a lot of restaurants downtown and a lot of things to do.
Yeah. Huh. It's two very different times, and I guess the last thing would be to, if you wanted to, have our listeners find you, connect with you, meet you, come out here and help you out in the vineyard or whatever. What can we? How can they find you?
Yeah, our website, elkhornpeak.com. All of our available wines are on there. We're also on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube.
Nice.
And, reach out to us on our contact page on our website. I mean, those emails get sent straight to my dad and myself, and we are the man behind the curtain for Elkhorn Peak. So when you call the phone number, when you email,
We answer the phone. Me or Elise.
Yes. And we love to get to know people. We love to share what we're doing. So we would love the opportunity to meet anybody who's interested in Napa, farming, Pinot Noir, winemaking, or anyone with an interesting story.
Yeah, because one thing that I enjoy about this business probably the most is that when people come here, I get introduced to people that our paths in life would never cross. And I meet a lot of extremely interesting people. I like to find out what's going on in their head, and we're doing it over a glass of wine. Well, what's better than that? It's pretty cool.
You got to end with your last Kenism, which is the one about solving all the world's problems.
Oh, yeah. Well, hell, when we're up here drinking a glass of wine, we can solve all the world's problems just like that.
Yeah. It's true. Well, thank you. It's been great meeting with you and this conversation.
Thank you, Armando.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
It was a pleasure. Thanks.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, cheers to hopefully a newer, simpler
Cool.
life. Yeah.
Yep.
Cheers to a micro winery ordinance in Napa County.
Cheers to
you
that.
know? Let's get these small businesses open for business.
There you go.
Amen.